Hello, my name is Amanda. Welcome to my channel. And today we have Jonita. Jonita is a self-leadership mentor for women, feminine lifestylist, international Tantra teacher, travelpreneur, and a life lover. And we are going to jump into the topic of emotional sovereignty, which is perfect for people who are experiencing spiritual awakening, empaths, pretty much anybody. So my first question is, Jonita, how did you start on a journey to emotional sovereignty?
Yeah, thank you so much, Amanda. I'm so excited to speak to you, and your channel is amazing. So much depth. Loving this, and I'm so happy to co-create. Well, the word emotional sovereignty sounds like a heavy loaded word. And honestly, I had no idea about it until it started to work for me. My journey as this person offering this work, I feel that it was destiny. I grew up in India as an IT engineer. So if you can imagine, like most of the Indians who are taught to be either engineers or doctors in their heads, right? So that was me. And I always was very fascinated with Western influence. I remember when there was this millennial thing happening, and I was a teenager. It was all about this Britney Spears, and we had new MTV and cable TVs launched at the time in the small town that I was in India, and somehow I looked at them in on TV in the MTV music list, and I felt like the women in the West are free, and that's where I wanted to be, like in the West. That's the freedom. And and then I ended up becoming an IT engineer at the age of 21. So I was really young. I started working in a company. I come from a really privileged background, where I was always told in my head, my parents put in me, that for a woman to be independent, she needs to be financially free. She needs to have financial freedom or authority. And so somehow I thought that getting a good job will help me feel that. It didn't. And I started working in this IT company, feeling not heard, not seen, and also a bit intimidated in that age, among all those men who did not take me seriously in the boardroom, right? And so I had the money, I had the job, and a 21-year-old should feel, I don't know, successful in a way, being in a company like that, coming from a small town. And I didn't. And soon I found the opportunity to move to London, UK. And for me, that felt dream come true, because I didn't feel freedom. I had the money, the job. I didn't feel that I can still feel free. Also, I did not understand the meaning of freedom. For me, in that age, it was all about, wearing whatever you want, feeling safe. And sometimes you don't, I'm talking, 2000. That time, I honestly didn't feel safe walking in the streets of India. Um, and for me, that was a big thing. I was always afraid that something will happen to me and people are staring. And it was a lot of Eve teasing. Things are changing right now and it's improved. But at that time, it was very intimidating to me. So I took the opportunity to move to London, and I thought it was dream come true. I am now in the West. I'm going to be free finally. So I acted like one. Um, and and then I started making girlfriends at work, and we would have those weekend parties, and those women, they were sharing with me how trapped they felt, and for me that was shocking. I thought grass is greener on the other side, right, of the world, and those women would say that they were tired of being the beautiful or doing the beautiful. They have to always look good to be accepted, or given more importance at work, in the society, family, friends. Like, there was always about the externals, and they had to keep themselves proper and good to be valued. And that was their story, and I felt really disappointed hearing that, feeling that, oh shit, oops, I don't know if I can use this word,
Yes.
but and I realized that, oh my God, these women don't feel free too. So where am I supposed to go? It's not in the East, it's not in the West. And where am I supposed? And it was getting I was getting drained with it as well. I realized that a lot of focus is given on the external, on the beautification on the outside of how a woman should be and look and to be favored at work, in the society, among people, and especially me and being an immigrant, I had to like keep up with all of that. So it was not freedom at all. And that's exactly when my world collapsed. I developed an autoimmune disease. My father from India passed away, so I had to deal with the grief. Everything in my world fell apart. And that's when I went into a deep inquiry and depression, because I did not understand how I had to be as a 23-year-old woman at that time, to feel good, to deal with heavy emotions, like, deal with the depression and the grief of my father's loss. He was my biggest cheerleader. And, and all of that really took over me. I also grew up in a very strict Christian family. Unlike in India, I was surrounded by the goddesses and all this divine feminine, but it never got into me. And I was angry with God that nobody teaches us how to deal with heavy emotions. I went to school and learned all those engineering subjects and chemistry and crazy topics, which I will never ever use in my life. And I do not have the human skill to deal with grief. My body is collapsing, the autoimmune disease. I don't feel safe. I don't look good anymore. Nobody teaches us that. And I was really disappointed with God. So I began to have angry conversations with God until one day a moment appeared, a teacher appeared, I would say, and I started learning more about being in a woman's body, and that's how my journey started, to keep it short. But that was what brought me here from an IT engineer to being this of this service.
Thank you very much for sharing your story. I feel like our stories are there's so much more, and there's so much teaching in someone's life experience. So how would you define in a nutshell what is emotional sovereignty?
Mm. So sovereignty is a really interesting word, because somehow we think of royals, or we think of power when we think of sovereignty, that it's authority, like this is the law. And if you really break it down into small chunk, it's all about having authority over our own self. And for me, it was to recognize that my so so if you say sovereignty, it's about ruling something. If you really look at the word sovereignty, it's about ruling, reigning. Yeah, sovereign, it's the reign over something. And I had come to a realization that the only thing I could reign, I could rule, was my being. And the more I focused on that, the more I connected with in my emotional sovereignty. And the most beautiful thing is that we don't have to do anything to become a sovereign woman, because we already are. It's always about remembering places where we have given our power away. There are people, places, authority, energy that we have given our power away, which stops us from claiming our sovereignty. So for me, emotional sovereignty then became really about understanding my emotions itself, because the more I could understand my emotions, the more I could then have that rule over myself. And I teach something called the Empress Codes, and where I say that for an empress, her empire is her being. And this is what it is, like this being, this is ours. And when we realize that we can, through energetic processes, through invocations, we have the power to invoke that, our life begins to shift. But also for women specifically, what I notice, and also through my personal experience, is that we have a lot of sovereignty in many ways with our good emotions, but not with our not so good emotions. right? That's the most challenging bit. And in my study and inquiry of recognizing myself as a woman and my ways of being, I had to accept that I am also the not good emotions that completes me. The feminine is dark. She is not the light. There is light aspect as well, but the true nature of a woman is very dark and dynamic. It's chaotic. It's mess. That's how we are. So really, honestly, honoring that those levels of emotions in me became part of accepting myself and claiming my emotional sovereignty.
Thank you. I love that. And in one of your other interviews, I heard you say, I might be totally butchering this, but you said something like it's not always about sovereignty and ruling and controlling everything on the outside. It's the ability to hold it within. And I really loved that because that's so feminine and yet it's so balanced.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And along with that, usually when someone is on that sovereignty path, at some point, people come along where they want to deliberately or unintentionally suck energy. It's just kind of part of the process of energy and power. Can you talk a little bit about differentiating between the deliberate energy suckers and the unintentional ones and how to navigate that?
Mm. This is so interesting because we already know this. I think as women, we just know it, but yet somewhere we want to logify, like create logic and apply logic to this. I have felt the need for this. I understand that very well because, coming from an IT background, I have to make sense in my head. I have of all the spiritual concepts even, right? So it has to matter. Um, Deliberate ones, there are people in our lives we know that they don't mean well. We know, we sense it. Like as women, we have this superpower. What we don't do is we don't listen and we don't respond to those inner callings. And I'm calling myself out in this, but let's be really honest. We know the people who don't mean well, but they still exist in our frame of life, circle of life. And these are the deliberate ones. But then there are also people, like I would say, like my mother, for example. She she is not a deliberate energy sucker. Like she doesn't come to me intentionally, not meaning well. However, there are things and ways that that she would act like or be like that may cause me drainage of energy. And I need to know that, not them, because a lot of people, they just walk as open wounded people, like we walk as our wounds are open. And so really identifying that this person means well and this person has no idea the damage they're doing to me. And we can really differentiate between them. We know it in our bodies, we know it in our guts. And with our guts, when we enter an environment, a room, we can already sense the energies, right? It's the gut that first receives that information and it sends it to our brains. So our gut experiences this sensations first. So for a woman, the more we are connected with our womb energy, with our womb wisdom, the easier it becomes for us to listen to the subtle differentiation between people who don't mean well and people who mean well, but they can be a pain for us, because they don't know. It's just their ways of being. And what I have also noticed is that when we tap into our womb wisdom through various modalities, there are so many as women, those deliberate energy suckers, they tend to go away, in the sense they tend to avoid you from there on. Like you would meet people that they feel uncomfortable in your presence and you haven't even done anything and you're wondering what just happened, right? So really paying attention to this will really help us to differentiate, because our body is always responding to this information from within.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. And my last question on this topic, you quoted a scripture in one of your videos that I love, something like wise as a serpent and innocent as a dove. And whether someone is a man or a woman watching this, navigating the world as a sensitive person, how are some ways that we can really embody those words?
Well, welcome to the year of serpent, firstly, right? This is the year of the serpent, 2025. And I think many of us are feeling it, that the skin is shedding. Like the old ways are not working for us. But we still want to hold on to. And they are shedding. It's literally going away from our lives, and we're not able to hold on to anymore. And so for me, the serpent energy is the wisdom energy, and it's been shown or portrayed to us as the evil part inside of us. However, when you go back to all the ancient civilization, the serpent represents rebirth. It represents wisdom in many ways. And be wise as the serpent really is an invitation for us to come back to the wisdom of our bodies, because our bodies are telling us, our bodies have been at war. Literally, our bodies have been at war. Every day is a war, energetic war, physical. And she is shouting. So for me, claiming and reclaiming and owning the serpent wisdom begins with really listening to the body's messages. Don't do this, those relationships, those habits, this eating habit. There's this body is screaming. And when we activate that in us, there is a purification that happens. And this purification lightens our presence. And then our presence becomes much more graceful as the dove, the peaceful one. But as long as we are at war with our bodies from within, I think we cannot step into the peaceful warrior or the peaceful dove. So the serpent has to be first listened and responded and reclaimed. Does that clear?
Oh my God, I really love that. Thank you so much. So, Jonita, all of your links are going to be in the description so people can find your work. And you also have a retreat coming up.
Mm.
When's that? Where's that?
Yes, so the retreat is happening in Poland, in Central Europe, and it is happening during the Salmon portal, which is October 31st. This is the beautiful energetic portal to work between the whales. We do a lot of shamanic healing. It's for women only, and we work specifically with the dark feminine energies. And the dark feminine energies are literally not shadow work in particular, but the dark feminine energies are working with places where we have repressed our own power. So we're bringing our power from the darkness to the light, and that's the portal and the essence of the retreat is.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We're going to have a part 2 that focuses a little bit more on that topic, and the link for that will also be in the description. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda.